because we don't want to offend. We don't want to step on toes. We want to be for everybody. You need to go ahead and get the plan to be quitting your 9 to 5. What can you do today that is like in preparation for the success that you're hoping for? Well, hey there, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the Jennifer Allwood Show. I'm Jennifer Allwood. I'm excited to chat with you today. I'm doing, in full disclosure, like a complete audible on the podcast. Okay. So I had a whole nother episode that I was going to be recording today. And instead I'm like, wait, we need to talk about this whole Travis Kelce / Taylor Swift situation. And talk about it from like a business perspective. So completely doing an audible here, shifting gears away from what I was originally going to talk about to talk about the things that we can learn. I'm either going to give you 9 or 10. I haven't decided yet. I'll make a game time decision at the end of this podcast, but either 9 or 10 things all small business owners can learn from what has transpired in the last week with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Okay. So in full disclosure, like last weekend, the Chiefs had a football game. But I was out of town. I had flown to Dallas from Kansas City because, yes, I am a Kansas City person. I live here. And so flown from Kansas City down to Dallas. And my team and I were doing a full day of recording last Sunday for a new coaching program that I'm going to be offering you guys in October. Okay, so we're down there and we're in a recording studio all day with this gentleman who records in Hollywood. It was a whole thing. We were exhausted. There was zero part of me that even thought about turning on the television to watch the Chiefs game. Now, also, I think it's important that you guys know I'm not really a football lover. I mean, our oldest son, Noah, played football in high school. So of course I went to all the games. I do sit down with my husband and watch games with him on occasion, but a lot of times I'm, surfing the net, I'm reading a book. So I'm not a football lover. And I think that that's important to this podcast. Also, in full transparency, I am not a Taylor Swift fan. And please don't at me. Okay. I know a song or two by Taylor and that's it. And that's it. She's not my vibe. That's not my type of music. And so no, I've never been to a Taylor Swift concert. I just don't know a ton about her. Okay. I just don't know a ton about her. All right. So I'm in Dallas. We have this, whole recording. And then the next 2 days on Monday and Tuesday, I had a live event for women that were in one of my programs and women that are in my mastermind in Dallas. So with that being said, like I didn't have the television on a lot, but in the evening, I would be on social media and I'm like, what is even happening here? I mean, all I know is that suddenly my feed, which is normally not full of football and pop stars, is full of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And of course, once you open up one thing to just check something out, then the algorithm's like, oh, let's dish her more of this. So right now, if I turn on my Instagram at this second and go to my For You page, it's nothing but Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift when I don't even watch football and I'm not a Swiftie. Okay. So super fascinating. Right. And I know in my head, because I'm a businesswoman, my first thought was, is this like true love or is this publicity? Is this just a publicity stunt? And I even asked it on my Instagram stories. And the truth of the matter is it really doesn't matter because the same thing has happened, regardless of if they're, deeply, passionately in love, or if it was for publicity and they're actually just friends, which I don't think that that's the case. But anyway, I want to tell you a couple things that I do know in the event that you haven't heard how some things have kind of blown up in the last week since Taylor Swift attended the Chiefs football game, sat in the, I don't even know the football terms, like one of the rooms that has glass where the family and friends sit. What is that called? I don't even know. She got to sit in the special spot and she was sitting right next to Travis and Jason Kelce's mother, who, by the way, I love. I think she's just fascinating. Okay. And so I saw, all the pictures of Taylor jumping around, all those things, but here's what I know has transpired since Sunday. Okay. And people call this the Swiftie effect. Again, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, so I don't even know what that means. All I know is that basically when she touches something, it turns to gold. Okay. Whether it's Travis, whether it's a concert, whether it's whatever. So here's what I know. This has been a really great week for Travis Kelce. I mean, obviously, the football game, which I believe we won. I'm pretty sure we won. I'm pretty sure he had a touchdown. Okay, so those two things. But then all of the publicity around Taylor being here, with his family to watch him play football. It has driven things crazy. So in the last week, and this could even be more now, but it's been 6 days since the game. Travis Kelce's Instagram account has went up by at least 300,000 followers. I mean, that's a lot of, that's like more than most people have, period. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's significant. There has been a 400% spike in the football jersey sales for the number 87. I believe it's 87. I always want to say 89, the year I graduated. I believe it's 87, but his jersey sales have gone up 400%. They said that his jersey is now like the top 5 selling jersey in the NFL. I mean, cha-ching. Travis does a podcast with his brother, Jason. I believe that the podcast is called New Heights. Look, they've got a new fan. I'm not even their avatar and I'm listening to their podcast. I'm not even their like ideal person and I'm fascinated. And so right now, as I look today, their podcast is number 2 in all of the United States, friends, not just in sports, in all of the United States for all categories. Okay. I read somewhere too that like searches for Travis Kelce's name on Spotify increased by 1,300%. 1,300%. So like, regardless of anything, you know, is if you like them or don't like them, like football, don't like football, if it's real, if it's not, like, regardless, really good week for not only Travis, but for her as well. I mean, she's getting a whole new audience of people also who really like, is people like myself who don't consider themselves Taylor Swift fans. Like, now I'm emotionally invested, right? Like, now I'm emotionally invested in the story. And for somebody like me who knows nothing virtually about football, well, now I'm invested there. Also, I'm asking my husband, you know, questions about football this week, questions about Kelce, questions about their family. And I'm learning more like lingo and more about the Kelce family and the Chiefs organization than I ever have in all the rest of my lifetime. You know what I'm saying? And so what I also know to be true is I was talking to my friend, Adrienne Richardson, who's like the guru of Facebook ads. And she was saying that she read that more people tuned into that football game than what they've had in a long, long time, and just a regular Sunday night football game. And that it was like 60% more viewers than normal for a Sunday night game. And most of them were female. And so as I was hearing all of this week, I'm like, my goodness, we could really learn some things about, you know, everything that's transpired in football in Swiftville. Is that what it's called? Swift World, Swiftville? I don't know. Because things have been good for Taylor this week. She's gotten a lot of new eyeballs. Things have been great for Travis this week. I know the New York Post had an article on Instagram that said that he may make up to $10 million in like off-field earnings just because of the publicity he's had this week. This has been great for his brother, Jason, and their podcast. I mean, it's shot to number 1. This has been good for the Chiefs organization. This is probably good for the NFL, which, by the way, could really have used some help. This is like a win-win. And it's also like this domino effect. So I'm going to give you the top 9 or 10, depending on if I'm feeling froggy at the end, things that as a business person, we could look at the last week, what has transpired, and how we could apply some of those things to our business, how we can like look at the things that we've seen this week with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift through the eyes of not just a consumer, but a business person, but a businesswoman, but an entrepreneur. Okay. So this is going to be a little longer podcast than my normal, like 10 to 15 minute, but I think it's going to be worth it. Okay. So number 1, you just never know when your business or your brand might explode. You never know when your sales may just go through the roof. You never know when your social media just may go viral. Like in my head, I'm like, did Jason I said Jason. Oh, heaven forgive me. He's married happily. Travis. Did Travis know that this would be what happened? Did Taylor Swift know that this is what would happen? Taylor Swift probably did, but I wonder if Jason did. I wonder if anybody knew that this is the kind of publicity and skyrocketing that would happen this week. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, my business is small. Well, listen, mine compared to either of those two is small as well, right? But I'm thinking about like a couple of years ago at Christmas time, I ordered a t-shirt from one of the women that was in my coaching group. And I wore the t-shirt before Christmas and I tagged her small business on an Instagram story. And they sold out a ton of t-shirts. Somebody even sent me like the email that they were sending out because the email basically said, hey there, I know you placed a t-shirt order. We were unprepared for Jennifer Allwood sharing our t-shirt and tagging us. And so we're just going to be a little bit behind in like fulfilling deliveries. So even if you don't have the size of following or audience of either Taylor or Travis or myself, like still you have influence. And it made me think of like who can you help also? Not only who can help you, but like who can you help also? I'm thinking of one other example. If you have followed me for any length of time on social media, you'll remember this story. Years ago, my husband like gives me this present. He's like, do a Facebook Live and open it. And so I open it and it's something called a Tata towel. Anybody remember the Tata towels a few years ago? So it's essentially a towel that you put around your neck and it does all the things. It holds things up when you're still wet. And it's called a Tata towel. And so Jason gave me one of those as kind of tongue in cheek, and it was kind of funny. And I opened it and all the things. Well, what's interesting is they were getting so popular and so many people were doing content about the Tata towel that they could not at all like fulfill all of their orders. And so, when you have an explosion, like, I mean, you just never know when that's going to happen. The Tata towel people, I know that they weren't planning for that. Not because I posted anything about it. I was just one of hundreds and thousands, but you never know when something you have is about to explode. And hopefully that encourages somebody in business today. Number 2, collaboration can get you in front of a whole new audience. Okay. The right collaborations. For instance, football was introduced to all these women who really aren't football watchers. And Taylor Swift was introduced to people that are not Swifties. And so isn't it interesting? Like, so that collaboration is such a win-win for both of them. And so I'm wondering if you could think about like, what kind of a collaboration or who could you do a collaboration with? Who would be somebody that if you partnered with, it would be super beneficial? I'm remembering one time how there's Dimples and Tangles, a girl named Jennifer that I did a Hobby Lobby video with one time. She owns a company called Dimples and Tangles on Instagram, and her and I did like it's not a collaboration, but she shouted me out. I shouted her out. And this was been several years ago, but I got like 1,000 new followers in one day, as did she. And so who could you collaborate with? Who could you launch a course with? Who could you link arms with? Who could you do something with where, you kind of leverage their audience and they're able to leverage your audience? Collaborations, man, they can make a huge difference. Number 3, anything like controversial is going to make for good content on social media. Okay. If you've listened to my podcast for any length of time, I have episode number 252 is talking about how if you're willing, even as a business person, to post things on social media that will either really repel some people or really draw forward the people who love your brand. I know sometimes as business owners, we're nervous to do that because we don't want to offend. We don't want to step on toes. We want to be for everybody. I had a business coach, my old coach, Stu McLaren, used to say, when you're for everybody, you're for nobody. So I know that the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing is not like controversial, but there's plenty of people that don't like her or don't like her dating him, and so there's lots of opinions, right? And so if you are in a position where you feel like God is calling you to talk about things that you may deem as a little bit controversial, or give your opinion on things as a business owner that really aren't even pertaining to your business, like when things have just a little bit of controversy to them, that is something that can get your business in front of a whole lot of people, or your relationship, wear your football jersey. And so anything controversial makes for good content. Point number 4, if you can work with somebody that has a little bigger influence or a bigger audience or just a different audience, that can definitely like just open doors that you could never open on your own. All right. So it's best when this is mutually beneficial, but sometimes if just someone with a bigger platform than you was to shout out your business, like that is a game changer. And I wonder if some of you could shout out people who are coming up behind you who have a smaller business than you do as just a way to bless them. And you're going to reap what you sow, by the way. And so, I'm thinking about my husband, Jason. We just did podcast episode 391 about him just launching Fairway Finest. It is a brand of golf apparel, mostly polos and hats and sweatshirts. And so if Jason was able to get one of his golf polos into the hands of somebody with a substantial audience, and not me, because my audience is going to be like all female. Yes, I'm, helping post and repost and share things for him where I can. But if he was able to get a Fairway Finest polo on somebody that has a big following of golfers, a semi-pro golfer, a pro golfer, like imagine that, what that would do for his brand, right? And I'm thinking about myself. I recently just went in front of the mastermind that I belong to, the Wellspring Mastermind. And, there are, gosh, I don't know, 50 of us in there that are 7 and 8 figure a year earners. And I just said, hey, I'm looking to get on other people's platforms this year and before the end of the year. And if you have an audience that would enjoy me coming on to talk about growing your small business, using social media, coaching in the online space, like I would love to get in front of your audience. And so a guy named Stefan Diaz, who teaches people how to do Instagram, like his brand is the Rainmakers, and they're like the leading people on teaching you, what did I say? Instagram? I'm so sorry. Amazon. Sorry, Stephen, if you're listening. They teach people how to sell on Amazon, and they're like the best at it. So I'm going to be on their Rainmaker podcast, and that's a completely different audience than what I normally get in front of. And I'm so excited. So just think about like how even trying to get in front of a different audience, or how can you get your product or your coaching in front of somebody with a much larger audience? Because essentially that's what's happened with Travis and Taylor. Gosh, I almost said Brittany. This is how little I know, you guys. I almost said Brittany, as in Spears. Okay. So anyhow, there are times when I suggest to some of the women that are in my coaching groups, like, can you send your product to an influencer on Instagram? Could you reach out to somebody with a much bigger audience and say, hey, could I come and like bless the people in your coaching group or whatever by giving them XYZ? Like if you can figure out how to, in a legitimate way, make the ask, and not that Travis made the ask, by the way, but it's mutually beneficial when you can get in front of a different audience or bigger audience. Okay. Point number 5. I was thinking as I'm watching this whole thing, unfold, of just how important publicity is to any small business. It just is. I know that I used to do local news in Kansas City all the time before the pandemic hit. I loved that. I was on the cover of a local Kansas City magazine, and, that got me in front of a new audience. And then Forbes did an article on me. And so that got me in front of a new audience. And so all of that publicity, I even used to do radio in Kansas City years ago. All of that publicity is so helpful. And so I want to make sure that those of you who have a small business, maybe you're just getting off the ground, or maybe you've been at this for a minute, but publicity matters. And sometimes you've got to pay for publicity. Okay. Not that that's what either Travis or her has to do, but I know, like, in my mastermind is a woman named Michelle Rupp. Her company is called Memorable Results. And she basically teaches people how to get their own publicity, or she can get publicity for them. But publicity matters. Getting eyeballs on your business, it matters. And so many people are trying so hard just to like white knuckle it, do everything themselves, not pay for any ads, not pay for any advertising or any of those things. You're just thinking that you can grow it on your own somehow. You're thinking, if I just listen to enough free things from Jennifer, I'll be able to explode my business. Or if I just, watch enough YouTube videos from all these different influencers, that I'll get the one thing. I'll get the one thing that's going to make the difference. And listen, it's usually not just one thing. It's several things. Publicity being one of those. And boy, did they have some publicity this week. Let's talk about point number 6. I was thinking another thing we can learn from Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift this week is just why you need to capitalize on things when it's hot. I have talked to some of the women in my mastermind, and I've told them, like, I really believe that there's an open heaven over women in business right now in the online space. Now, will it stay that way forever? I don't know. Doubtful, because everything on the side of the sun is cyclical. But while it's hot right now, like if you're a female trying to get into the online business space, like this is the time. This is when it's hot. This is when there is favor upon women who are trying to get into that market. And so capitalize on something while it's hot. I'm doing this podcast about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift right now versus 6 months from now, because this is the hot topic. I'm hoping somebody shares this with somebody who shares this with somebody who, we'll get more downloads. Instinctively, I'll get more clients. It's just, that's the way things work. I have a friend, her name's Ellie Stedman. She owns the Pink Dinosaur in Kansas City. and it's a brick and mortar over in Zona Rosa. And on podcast episode 249, I actually interviewed Ellie. And so Ellie is a smart businesswoman. If you have a brick and mortar, you need to go listen to that podcast 249. If you've ever dreamt of one, go listen to it. If you're in Kansas City, go visit Ellie. But by like the next day, Ellie had come out with a new t-shirt with the theme of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, because she's on it. Like, she's going to make hay while she can. And so what's super interesting too is NBC News picked that up. I mean, like, go Ellie, right? So while things were hot, while things were in the news, while it's a hot topic, capitalize on that while you can. And so many small business owners, and I'm talking to you women, I love you so much. But you've got this like spirit of hand wringing. Well, I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if anybody will buy it. I don't know if anybody will sign up. I don't know if I should do it. I don't know if I can replace my full-time income. And so you've got that spirit of hand wringing. And then you've got the opposite, which is the Pink Dinosaur going, you know what? We're going to get some t-shirts out. I'm going to stay up all night, make sure I have something to hit the ground running with tomorrow, and getting featured on national news. This is the difference between businesswomen that are going to make it and businesswomen that are not. And I'm sure Ellie thought the same thing. Will these sell? Will anybody want them? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The same things you think, the same things I think. The difference is, are you willing to just do it anyway without knowing? And will you do it right now when there is favor on an industry, favor on a topic, favor on a fashion, favor on a whatever? Or are you going to sit there and just wonder? Okay, point number 7. I was thinking about how hype begets hype. You know how if you've had small children at any point, and I know like Jason Kelce is a father. I believe he has 2 kiddos. And so he's got kids. Anybody that has small kids has heard the saying sleep begets sleep, meaning we think we're going to keep our kids up later at night in the beginning stages of parenthood, and they'll sleep in the morning. And then we learn very quickly that's not how things happen. We need to get them to sleep earlier. And a lot of times they will sleep later. Sleep begets more sleep. Momentum begets more momentum. Hype begets more hype. And I actually did a podcast on momentum. It's episode number 388, about how momentum is just sometimes the thing that changes everything for your business. And the thing is, people will say, Jen, how do you know if you've got some momentum? Oh, Travis Kelce, he's got some major momentum right now. Where just people are talking about it. Sales are coming in. You're not having to work hard. You feel like in your field of favor, God's hand of blessing is upon things. So, I mean, a little bit of hype, a little bit of momentum can go a long way. And so if you are a person of prayer and you pray about your business, ask the Lord, can you just give me something that starts a fire here? If I can be trusted with it, will you let me get something started that brings some momentum into my business, that gets me on this trajectory of a snowball, going downhill? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's that. Point number 8, Travis called his shot, and he shot his shot. And I would not know this if I hadn't had 9,462 videos about Travis Kelce and Taylor in my feed this week. Okay. So apparently Travis went to a Taylor Swift concert that was in Kansas City a couple of months ago. Bless. I had zero desire. Okay. So he went to that concert, and I guess he had made her a friendship bracelet. I'm quoting him from his podcast. And so he was going to give her his phone number, he said, on said bracelet. I mean, that's calling your shot, right? That's being pretty forward. That's being pretty ballsy. That's going ahead and making a bracelet with the assumption that, I'm going to be able to do the thing that I'm hoping to do. And I was thinking about how that applies to business. And I had a great example for you. This week, I spent some time on Facebook Marketplace, going around Kansas City and purchasing Ray Dunn coffee mugs. That's right, Pioneer Woman coffee mugs, to put in our 3rd Airbnb/VRBO that we will be buying in Florida. I don't know when, but I'm going ahead and calling my shot, and I'm starting to order things now. Those of you that have been trying for a baby, who's listening to this podcast right now, you need to hear this right now. Go ahead and decorate the nursery. Believe in faith for some things. That's the same thing as calling your shot. The world's going to call calling your shot. We're going to go ahead and just step out in faith. Okay. And so some of you, you need to go ahead and get the plan to be quitting your 9 to 5. Like you're hedging your bets. You're planning your plan B. You're planning your plan B of plan B, which is plan C, of what are you going to do if things fail? What if they don't fail? What if you give her a friendship bracelet with a phone number and 6 weeks later, you guys are on national television together and your brand just jumped by a bajillion%? I mean, what if that? What if we do figure out a way that we get to buy our third Airbnb in 2 years and in Florida on 30A, which I absolutely love? Like, I'm going ahead and preparing for that now. So how can you apply that to your own business? What can you do today that is like in preparation for the success that you're hoping for? What could you do today in your business that is basically like, you're taking the steps showing that you believe that there's going to be favor, there's going to be influence, there's going to be impact, there's going to be sales, there's going to be dollars, there's going to be winning, all of those things. Point number 9. And I don't really know how to say this. So this was the one I was going to leave out. And I'm like, I don't know. How do you even word this? But here's what I was thinking. Man, we're all kind of suckers for a good story, right? Like a love story. And there's a lot of us that we're kind of rooting for like the underdog. And please know that I'm not calling either Taylor Swift or Travis Kelce an underdog. Okay. Clearly they're top dogs this week. All right. But all of us would like to see like the underdog kind of win. Travis probably isn't Taylor Swift's normal person to date. I don't know who she's dated. My assumption would be it's Hollywood entertainers. And Travis Kelce is a football player who lives, less than 15 minutes away from me. I mean, how cool is that? And so I think we all love a good story. We all love a good storyline. We all become emotionally invested in things. And so as I was trying to think about, well, how would that apply to business? I was thinking, sometimes we share our story thinking that it matters to people, like on our, let's say on our website. And we're like, I started this design business because my grandfather used to cut down trees and make chairs out of wood. And his grandfather before him used to make boats out of wood. And so now wood is my thing. And so that's not what people care about. What people care about is a good story of like rags to riches. When there's a fight against good and evil. If you guys have followed me for any length of time, I love like war movies. And the reason I know that I love war movies is because I've got to see like good overcome evil. And so we all love like somebody winning, right? Like, and we're invested in those stories and we love a good love story. And in my head, I'm like, you know what? This is amazing because people that don't even like football, people that don't even like, Taylor's style of music, like we love a good story though. And now we're like emotionally invested in it, even though we're not invested in either of the things that those two people do or those two people the way they are. We all want to see something good happen. And so if you have a story that you can be sharing with people on social media, that you can help them to see themselves in where you're currently or where you used to be and where they're currently at, like how can you kind of like get people emotionally involved in a story? Are you currently like shutting down one part of your business and opening up another? I can remember when we were adopting our young daughter, Ariana. My followers were emotionally invested in that story. And thank you, Jesus, because by the way, also, that was some of the best support we got were from complete strangers on the internet who were pouring into my DMs and letting us kind of know what to expect and how they could help and all of the things. And it's not that we were using her adoption as a way to manipulate, and get attention. It wasn't that in the least. It was just, we were sharing what we were going through in life on my business platform. And turns out people want to hear about more than just your business. And so, especially if you're in the coaching space, especially if you're an influencer, influence with your story too. Because man, we love a good story. When I saw the video of like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift getting into an unmarked old car, gosh, you guys are just going to be so disappointed in me. I don't know what kind of a vehicle it was. It was old. How old, Jen? I don't know, maybe 1960s or 70s something, probably as old as me. But it didn't have a top on it. So it was a convertible something. And they're like driving away out of Arrowhead Stadium, it appeared. I mean, how is that? I don't care if it's true love or if it's publicity. That is so cool. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like a good story matters. How can you bring a good story into your business. I'm thinking like, you guys have heard Good Ranchers, who has at times sponsored this podcast. And so the people that started Good Ranchers, which is like meat being delivered directly to your doorstep, that's, doesn't have any of the crap in it, is here in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. So the guy from Good Ranchers, he has an incredible story of how he went from like being a pastor in a church to having this brand of meat, of how he went from like, he had an idea in the shower and literally got out and told his wife that he thought he would be leaving ministry. Like, that's a good story. Also the truth. Don't make stuff up, but people love a good story. Okay, last thing. Here's the last thing. And this hopefully is just like, hello, Captain Obvious. But in case it's not, here's this. Man, social media matters. Social media matters. The amount of followers you have matters. The fact that you are consistent on social media matters. I mean, the only reason that this blew up this week with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift is because of social media. If we didn't have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, none of that, then I mean, I don't even know that I would even know what transpired because I don't watch football, right? But social media has made things spread like wildfire. So if you, for your own business, are not taking social media seriously, you are missing such a huge opportunity. If you are not working to be consistent, to be putting stuff on social media, and in the hopes that at some point your social media is going to grow and it's going to be an organic growth and you don't have to pay for a bunch of ads, although that is still a strategy, but you need to be utilizing social media to grow your business. It's 2023. You can't grow a business outside of social media. And so if you need social media help for your business, I want you to go right now to creatorsinnercircle.com and join up with my small group that I've had for 8 years now. Yes, 8 years, where I teach people how to use social media and email to grow their business and grow their brand. So I did all 10. Was this helpful for you guys? I hope that this was helpful. If you're watching right now on YouTube, leave me a comment below. Don't shame me for not being a Swiftie. Don't shame me for not knowing my way around cars or football. I know my way around business though. And if you can almost train yourself when you see something like this happen, when you see something that explodes, when you see something that's got everybody's attention, if you can almost train yourself to look at things through the eyes of a business person versus the eyes of just a consumer on social media, it's amazing what you can learn. So I hope this was helpful, my friends. I hope I see some of you in my inner circle, creatorsinnercircle.com. Again, if you are watching on YouTube, if you would leave a comment below, that would be amazing. And I will see you on the next episode here at the Jennifer Allwood Show. See you soon, friends. Bye-bye.